Hey, and welcome to my channel. I am so happy that you're here for quite a riveting video, no less. May I just say, the moment in time has come. I have officially read and finished A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Let me just preface this by saying, yes, I have been around BookTok for quite a while. I've been on BookTube for quite a while. And yes, for all that time, I have heard people talk about the ACOTAR series, and I have purposefully not read it. You want to know why? Because I know myself, and I know that I am a hypersensitive little thing, and I don't like violence and gore and blatant acts of hatred, so I decided not to read it. And then I made a new best friend, and her favorite book series is none other than A Court of Thorns and Roses. And so she told me, she's like, if you've read the Empyrean series, you can read this book. And I said, okay. So I asked for it for Christmas. My very loving dear brother bought it for me. And it has taken me until now, because obviously I wanted to read Onyx Storm first to start the series. And I almost did not finish it, which is quite funny because I went through a roller coaster of emotions until I got to that point. Let me just lay it all out for you. And I'm not going to give a book summary because if you're here, I think you know what this book is about. If you want a book summary, I'll link the Amazon link below for the book and you can read it. But what I knew about this book going into it was that it was fairy tale-esque. I had heard that it was kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I hadn't heard much else besides that. So I went in very kind of blank. I didn't have a lot of preconceived notions about the characters, about what was going on in the book. And so I was about 3.5 chapters in when I texted my friend and I was like, this is really boring. Nothing had really happened yet. It was all learning about Feyre's land, her cottage, her dad, and her 2 sisters. She kills a wolf. Oh, and let me just say, I'm going to talk about this book very openly. It's going to be full spoilers because, again, I'm kind of assuming you've already read the book and we are just here to talk about it. Tons of spoilers, although killing the wolf isn't a spoiler because I'm pretty sure that's on the back of the book. But she's taken the pelt to the town square to try to sell it, but nothing had happened. It was very kind of just context driven. The inciting incident hadn't occurred. And so I texted her and I was like, this is boring. She's like, just keep reading. Well, lo and behold, I think it was like chapter 5 or very shortly after that, Tamlin bursts into her home and takes her back to the Spring Court, to his land. And so, okay, I'm like, now things are getting really interesting. And I'm starting to enjoy learning about their dynamic. I'm enjoying seeing her discover her artistic side, like her love to paint. She's never had the opportunity to delve into this side of herself. She's always been in survival mode and hasn't been able to just enjoy life's little luxuries. So I'm loving this. She's spending her days painting. Her romance with Tamlin is blooming. You know, it seems to be a budding friendship between Lucian and her, although a little feisty, but still very fun. Yes, there's kind of like negative things happening. There's these dark creatures, dark fae that are attacking her or coming onto the land, but you're getting to see her wit, her strength, which I will say I was on Fable, like marking my progress while I was reading this, and I saw a review where somebody said that Feyre is a lot like Bella Swan, and I have to just completely disagree. Yes, Feyre is very human. She can be a little silly and naive, which I think is like something that people correlate with Bella Swan as well. But Feyre is she's also stubborn and like does not listen, let's just be real, which her not listening is a reason why a lot of the things happen. But she's got curiosity, and curiosity killed a cat. So like she's getting herself in these bad situations because of her curiosity. But long story short, I think she has way more bravery, way more tenacity and fierceness than Bella Swan ever did. So side tangent, but I don't think that's true. So anyway, the story is just chugging along. Things are going great. She kisses Tamlin for the first time. They're at the summer solstice party. Like, we're at a peak as far as I'm concerned. And then things really take a turn for the worse. I literally, at the 75% mark, set the book down and did not think I was going to finish it. Because at 75%, we are introduced to Under the Mountain, to Amarantha, and it was such a vibe shift that I was not prepared for because I did not know a lot about this book. And I was just utterly shocked by her cruelty, by just like how torturous she was. Like, she is fueled by revenge and hatred, I feel like, and just anger. And she's just tormenting all these people. I mean, some people for 49 years. Like, her motives were just so very cruel. And when everything happened with Claire, I was reading these descriptors, learning the backstory of Amarantha, and I thought, no way. Like, no way. I literally flipped a few pages forward to see if they were still under the mountain, if like she was still going through these 3 trials, if Amarantha was still there, because I was like, if this is a few pages, I can tolerate it. If it's not, I need to stop. And so lo and behold, I saw Amarantha was still there for more than a few pages. And so I set the book down, set it on the floor, not even on a table. I literally set it on the floor. And I was like, I'm not going to read this right now. And I had to contemplate for a few days whether I was going to finish the book. And the lighting's getting a little crazy in here. Let me see if I can adjust. Golden hour. Is that any better? I think it might be. So I really had to do some soul searching and just separate myself to see if I wanted to finish the book. But I genuinely, for a whole day, maybe longer, thought that I was going to be filming a why I DNFed ACOTAR video. I know I wasn't gonna have peace of mind unless I gave it an honest effort, and I told myself, I was like, just pick the book out, pick the book back up, read a couple pages, hopefully a chapter, and see how it goes. And so that's what I did. Last night I picked it up and I was like, I'm gonna read a chapter, that's my goal, and I can stop. And if I feel ill from the grotesqueness of it all, then like I'll stop. If I'm bothered, I'll stop. If I think I'm gonna have nightmares, I'll stop. Like, whatever the case may be, if there's anything negative coming out of the experience, I will not force myself to continue to read, and I will DNF the book. Well, I'm happy to report that I read a chapter, and I really think it was the initial shock of learning her backstory and just who she is and how cruel she really is. And I wasn't expecting it. That was so negative for me. And after that shock wore off, like even when I was reading about the first trial, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. So it was like I'd gotten over the hump, I'd gotten over the shock, and then I kept reading. And then Rysand, is that how you say his name? I probably should have looked it up, but I'm gonna say Rysand. Rysand. That's his name, right? Rysand. And then Rysand shows up, however you say it, and he's helping her. And you see, like, he's giving her hope in all this darkness. He's healing her. He's honestly, like, being her lifeline. And I was like, okay, this gives me something positive to focus on. I'm starting to be curious about this man who's helping her out in some very odd ways in certain circumstances, but like, you can tell he's up to something positive for everybody hopefully involved besides Amarantha. And then also too, just focusing on like Farrah's strength and her courage to continue on and just all that she's enduring and how amazing she is. That's what powered me through the last 25% of the book by far. And then I got to the end and I was like, I want to read book 2. Like, I want to read it right now. And my friend has actually been so kind as to purchase the rest of the series for me on Amazon. So that'll be coming soon, but not for Thursday, Friday, 3 more days. So I need to now function for 3 days without reading the second book. But all in all, I give the book, which is just shocking after everything I've said, but I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars because I enjoyed so much of it up until the 75% mark. And then I just had such an internal battle about how I felt about the violence and cruelty in it. and I needed to spend a few days dwelling on that. And then once I started reading again, I really, really enjoyed it. So I would say that there were probably only like a chapter or two that I really struggled with and that I just needed to pause and sit down and work through my trigger. And which I will say, I know with the Empyrean series, Rebecca Yarros had a trigger warning at the beginning, and there is no trigger warning at the beginning of this, which is not needed, but I do kind of like that Rebecca Yarros did that. And to me, the cruelty and the violence in this one's worse. It's just different. And I think it would have been cool to just put that on there, but not necessary. But now I'm just thinking about that. As somebody who's easily triggered, that would have been nice, but I could have looked up more about the violence situation. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars because it was just that little hiccup right at the 75% mark that I was so distraught about, but I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed learning about the Fae. I enjoyed learning about Farah. I enjoyed her and Tamlin's interactions, although I have to say, like, I don't think she ends up with him based on my understanding of things right now. And I knew even at the beginning, I was like, this isn't being set up the way, which I read a lot of romance, but I was like, their introduction, their chemistry, it doesn't have the same buildup that it would normally have when the female main character and the male main character meet each other in a romance novel, and it's just like they collide. And like when they kiss in this, I was like, oh, they're kissing. But it wasn't like this big moment. It wasn't like overwhelming, which, I mean, that's kind of real life sometimes, but normally when the male main character and the female main character meet in a romance book, which I know this is not, it's like this really monumental moment when they finally get together. And I just kind of felt like this is part of Farah's story, but it didn't give me the vibe of like, this is forever. So my theory right now is that she ends up with Rhysand. And I'm so impressed with myself that I've been able to not spoil this book and know that for sure. But I'm excited to read the second book. And maybe I will create more videos about reading the rest of the series. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, for my review of the first book of the ACOTAR series. It has been so much fun. I have had so many feelings. And yeah, I'll catch you in my next video. Bye guys.